Hello, I'm Chamanti, a medical officer attached to the Adolescent and Youth Health Unit, Family Health Bureau, Ministry of Health. I'm doing session 21, that's communicating with young people. By now, I know you have listened to a series of presentations and gathered so much knowledge on adolescents and youth. When talking about young persons, that is adolescents and youth together, we call them as young persons. So as parents, as healthcare providers, and as society in large, we have to realize that this age group in the life cycle is a transition period where they undergo several physical changes, psychological changes, and we have to understand them, their needs, and how to communicate with them to have a better relationship and to give their services. So the objectives of today's session is to recall the issues faced by young persons and the contributory factors. Then to describe basic communication skills, which are also known as counseling micro skills in relation to young people. Then to describe important points. Describe how to develop empathy towards young people. Describe tips for parents as well as for young persons regarding communicating with each other. Describe the procedure of conducting a mini counseling session with a youth will be done. Okay. Now let's see the basic concepts. Issues faced by young persons and the contributory factors to these issues. Then how are we to show empathy towards young people? And then what are the basic communication skills? Then conducting a mini counseling session with the youth. Yes. When we come to basic concepts in detail, yes, first and foremost is the youth-friendly attitude. It's the service provider, all the rest in the center has to have youth-friendly attitudes. Then the next one is communication skills. Then how to interview, how to respond, how to show empathy, problem management, and opportunity development. Yes. Let's see the types of questions needed for effective communication. Yes. When we talk about types of questions, they can be asked to obtain further information on a relevant subject. And we have two major types of questions. They are the closed questions and open questions. If I may tell what closed questions are, just a simple example. If I ask my client, do you have a good relationship with your parents? The client will answer saying yes or no. Now, this type of closed questions will not be able to gather many information. But when we ask open questions, if I may ask the same question in this manner, could you please tell me about your relationship with the parents? Then the clients will definitely open up and explain. Yes. Then what are the types of open questions? We can ask leading questions that will definitely ask to gather more information and leading to the issue. Yes. Then certain questions are asked to recall. Also, funneling questions. Asking a series of questions to get the answer that become more or less restrictive at each step, starting with an open question and then ending by using a closed question or vice versa. Now, few examples are tell me about your most recent holiday, where the client has to open up and talk about the holiday, where they went, how she or he enjoyed, what all happened, and then what did you see while you were there? Yes, there also the client will explain it. Were there any good restaurants? Client may say yes or no. See, we are funneling down now. Did you try some local delicacies like curd and treacle? Then also rhetorical questions are asked to have a dramatic effect, and also they are used when we want them to respond to agree with us. Like if I ask them, my client, isn't John's design work so creative? Yeah, definitely that the client will have to answer yes or no. Mostly when I ask, isn't John's design work so creative? They will probably say yes. Then probing questions. They are useful for finding out more information. The question itself tells us we probe into the issue and may use questions that include word exactly to probe further. Yes. Now, I'll talk about the basic communication skills. When we talk about the background, the service providers, they need a good communication skills to communicate better with young people who come to us. Then how to convert a conversation into a helping relationship. Answers to their questions that keeps bothering them. This can be done through improved communication skills and also to manage the problems they face. By recognizing the context of the issue, we can discuss it with them and then help to manage it. Continuation of basic communication skills for service providers. Now these skills, we need them to enhance communication with clients. It also enables to build a close relationship and to engage the client in a fruitful discussion. Basic communication skills will include attending skills, listening skills, questioning, summarizing, and confrontation. Yes. Attending skills. What does this mean? Attending refers to the way where the counselor behaves when the client is there in front of us. The way we behave both physically as well as psychologically. Then the purpose of this is effective attending to the clients. Indicate that service provider is with them, is with the client. We are ready to share their thoughts. This also refers to the ways in which the counselor behaves in front of the client. If the service provider has an effective attending skill, that will enable the service provider to concentrate well on the client's issue. Body language in attending skills. Face the client directly. We have to be relaxed and natural. If we have a table in between the client and the service provider, that will act as a psychological barrier. We have to lean a little forwards, that's towards the client, to show the involvement and the interest. Maintaining a comfortable distance between the two. We have to maintain an open posture. We should not have our arms crossed or the legs crossed. That shows the unavailability or the remoteness. then we have to maintain a good eye contact. Sometimes establishing a good eye contact can be the turning point in the first session. Talking about the vocal qualities, the following should be avoided. Raising the volume of one's voice. If we raise the voice, the client might think we are annoyed or we are in a hurry. So we should not raise one's voice. Then speaking more quickly may indicate the anxiety that we are in a hurry to leave the discussion, so that the client will not open up. Lowering the loudness and the speed of a voice may indicate sadness. And then the last one, the monotony. This will be boring. If we have a monotonous tone, that will be boring both to the client as well as to the service provider. Then the listening skills. Listening refers to the ability of the counselors to capture and understand the messages the clients communicate, both verbally and non-verbally. Yes, the features of listening skills: listening to and understanding verbal messages. It's also important, if we listen carefully, we also can understand the non-verbal messages as well. Listening to and understanding the client in context, and listening with empathy. Listening to and interpreting non-verbal messages is also very important, because the client will tell us many things from his or her non-verbal behaviors. We have to read the non-verbal messages like the client's bodily behavior, the client's posture, the body movement and the gestures, their facial expressions, whether they have a smile, whether they are frowning, raised eyebrows or twisted lips. Then the voice-related behavior. The voice-related behavior, the tone they talk, the pitch, voice level, the intensity, spacing of words, emphasis, pauses, silences, and the fluency. When we come to listening and interpreting nonverbal messages, psychological responses are also important, like quickened breathing, blushing, paleness, or if they are sweating. Then in general, grooming and dress will tell us many things about them. But then remember, we should not be judgmental. Physical appearance, whether their fitness, their height and weight, their build. It's also important to read these messages without being judgmental. As service providers, we cannot be judgmental at any place. Small signals are vital. Like when we are listening to them, if we have a long pause, we are listening, but the client will not realize that we are with them. So we just can inform it to the client by nodding the head. Or a sound such as or words like I see, go on. These things will show them that we are with them, but we are listening. Listening and understanding the client in context. The service provider should have an understanding of the social background of the client to have a holistic approach. Listening to with empathy. Yes. What is empathy? Basic empathy involves listening to the client, understanding them and their concerns, as best as we can and communicating this understanding to them in such a way that they might understand themselves more fully and act on the understanding. And the service provider should put him or herself in client's shoes. That's how we say. We have to get into their shoes and realize their issue from their aspect. Then probing. Probing will help us to make inquiries from the client to enable him or her to explore more relevant issues of their lives or the issue. We can use questions with caution. Yes, we can ask probing questions, but we have to be very cautious. Limit the number of questions, probing questions asked. Do not ask questions for which we don't want the answer. So we can always avoid those questions. And avoid asking many close-ended questions where the client will answer yes or no, because it will not give us more information. Let's see what is recommended. We can ask open-ended questions when it's required and more than a simple yes or no. We can use sentences that will begin with how, tell me about, or what. This indicates when we ask questions starting with these words, they have to explain. They can't just say yes or no. Coming to summarizing, it's sometimes useful to summarize as it provides information to us and to gather information, or focus to what was previously discussed. Yes, when we finish that day's session, we can summarize it. And just before we are starting a new session on the other day, we can summarize what we discussed on the previous day. And it also sometimes in the middle of a conversation, we can make the client to move forward. If we feel the client is going away deviating from the issue, we can always summarize and get him or her back to the conversation. Yes. As I said, this can be used at the beginning of a new session. When a session seems to be going nowhere, or when the client gets stuck, in order to help the client to move forwards. Last one is confrontation. Yes. Now we have to do this a bit cautiously. If we have developed a good rapport between the client and the service provider, yes, we can go into confrontation. Otherwise, we have to be a little cautious. Yes, in confrontation, for effective confrontation, it will help us to promote the insight and the awareness. That it can also help to reduce the resistance. Then increases compatibility between the client's goals and their behaviors. And also promote open communication. But we have to remember we can go for confrontation only if we have established a good rapport with the client. And it also leads to positive changes in the client's emotions, thoughts and actions. It can evoke negative emotions as well. So that's why I said it should only be used after good rapport has been developed. Yes. Step 1 in confrontation will help us to identify the mixed and the incompatible messages of the client. Step 2 will make an awareness of these incompatibilities and assist the client to work through these. Step 3 in confrontation will evaluate the effectiveness of the intervention, the evidence by the client's change in a positive direction. Yes. Now let's see, for a high quality connection, what are the communication skills essential? First and foremost is active listening. Then listening empathetically. Yes. Also appreciating others' points of view is very important. There will be an activity showing the discussion and to show the important points when communicating with a young person. Yes. Now coming to important points when communicating with young people. The most essential thing is we have to understand the adolescents. That is, if I may talk a little bit on this, now we know decision making is in the prefrontal cortex. But the myelination of the nerve cells starts from behind and gradually it comes forward. So the decision making area in the prefrontal cortex, the myelination of these brain cells occur at the age of around 24. So we have to understand that the adolescents lack in decision making. But at the age of 14, the amygdala behind is mother nerve cells have been myelinated. So they have all the emotions, expressions and the attraction towards the opposite sex as adults. But they don't have a control and decision making. But this will not make us to go and tell them, see, my dear, you don't have decision making, so you have to listen to us. No, this is not going to work. We have to realize this and work accordingly with them to establish a better communication. And then the next point is we have to respect the clients as an individual. Then our communication skills are essential. Then the service provider should be able to help the clients to explore the feelings behind the facts. It can be very rewarding for a client if we can help them to have a voluntary behavioral change by talking about the issues, identifying the actions and their consequences. Then the service provider can also help the client to feel more in control of their lives. Helping the adolescent to experience internal rewards will motivate for a better future. Yes. Now we talked about the communication skills, that the skills needed for better communication. Now let's talk about the types of communication. Yes. Aggressive communication. What is this? It's a type of communication where the behavior is in a way that one expresses their feelings and needs and rights without any regard to the other person's needs, rights and feelings. What is passive type of communication? This will enable us to avoid conflict, but can lead the client feel anxious, depressed and helpless, and causes frustration and discomfort to those around you. Yes. Assertiveness. Voicing one's needs while listening to and respecting the needs of the other person. This means a win-win solution for both the parties. Coming to empathy. Yes. Empathy towards young persons. This is very important. This involves listening to them understanding them and communicating this understanding to them. Empathy needs two major skills: perceiving and communication. Now let's see empathy. How empathy differs from sympathy. Empathy is seeing someone else's situation from his or her perspective, her point of view, and sharing their emotions, including if any distresses are there. Sympathy is a feeling of care and concern for someone, often someone close, accompanied by a wish to see him or her better off or happier in life. However, sympathy will not involve shared viewpoint or emotions, and the facial expressions would convey caring and concern, but not shared distress. If I may say a small example, how to show empathy. Suppose a client comes to me and says, see, this problem has been bothering me so much. I will tell my client, yes, I understand that this problem bothers you a lot. We talked about the communication skills, then we talked about the types of communication. Now the procedure of conducting a mini counseling session with a young person will be shown. Coming to problem solving in counseling, we have 5 steps. The first one is identify. We have to identify the problem. Client getting together with the service provider. We have to develop a good communication and then identify the problem. Once we identify the problem, we can list down all the alternatives that will help us to solve the identified issue. Coming to the third one, we can select. We have to select. We have to select the best alternatives and filter them from the solutions, considering whether they are moral and ethical. Once we select, we have to work out. We have to work out the steps needed to solve the problem using the chosen alternative. Fifth one is looking at the result. So we can also develop indicators. Coming to setting goals. Goals in counseling, they help individuals to overcome their immediate problem and enable them to meet future problems. Therefore, there are 4 types of goals. First one, for the client. What are the goals for the client? There can be immediate goals to gain better self-understanding and a control with self-exploration. Also to appreciate the client's strengths and weaknesses. Coming to long-term goals, can attain self-realization, to know oneself, and without assumptions and self-judgments. Become self-actualizing. It can help the individual to grow towards fulfillment, which can be the highest need. Also to attain self-enhancement, to become a fully fledged person. Now talking about the basic stages in counseling process. There are 4 stages. Riyunda, R stands for relationship building. That is very important, what type of relationship we build up with the client. That will help and enable the client to open up fully and discuss the issue for a better solution. E stands for exploration. The next is understanding. Last one is the action plan. Yes. Talking about relationship building, the type of relationship that we build up with the client will put the client at ease and makes the client comfortable so that she or he will open up. But at first, the client might have a little bit of reluctance, so we have to give time and let that time get her to the situation so that the client will completely open up and have a fruitful discussion with us to get a solution for the issue. So this includes a good rapport, an emotional bond, our attending behavior, and therapeutic relationship. Yes. Talking about attending behavior, we have to sit in a V-shaped position and maintain an open posture where we don't keep our arms crossed or our legs crossed. So we have to have an open posture. Lean forward towards the client at times. Have a good eye contact with the client. And we have to be relaxed so that it will make the client relax. Then skills for relationship building. Okay, suppose the client comes to you. We have to introduce ourselves. The client should know who we are. Talk a little about yourself, and that will also make the client at ease. Then we have to ask the client's name, and at the same time we can ask the client, how would you like us to address you? Should I address you by your name? Do you like that? Do you prefer that? Yes. And then remember to keep the name throughout. Then invite the client to sit down. Then notice the client's non-verbal behavior and use to understand the emotional state of the client, which will give us many clues. Yeah. Then we can invite the client to tell us why she or he came to us today. Yes, we have to always give time for them to respond, for them to open up. And once the client starts, not to jump in between and interrupt. Let the client go on, and our duty is to show active listening. Next one is exploration. Yes. What is exploration? Through this, we can find out client's problems, what the client needs, their misinterpretations, and their behaviors. Yes, what are the skills that can be used in exploration? As I said before, active listening is very important. And then reflecting our understanding. We have to reflect our understanding to the client. Then we can ask open-ended questions. Then we can summarize. We also have to show warmth, respect, and encouragement. Paraphrasing can be used. Understanding. Yes. What is understanding? How can we show the understanding? The rapport, what we developed with the client, we can express ourselves, how we understood the issues, as greater understanding can be reached. Yes. What are the skills that can be used in understanding? Again, warmth, the trust, the respect, our genuineness. If the client understands that she can lay her trust, his or her trust upon us, and that the client realizes we are genuine, we genuinely want to help him or her, they will open up and we can go for a better understanding. Then the fifth one is self-disclosure. Sixth one is we can go for a summarization. Yes, then the fourth step is the action plan. Yes, now once we have come up to this stage, the client gets along with us and we have an action plan. How are we going to work this out? And what we have been discussing throughout the session. So what are we going to do now to overcome the issues? At this stage, the client can make a decision towards the problem. Interventions can be done to overcome the problem or to reduce or minimize the problem, or to make an adjustment. Yes, the following things can be agreed upon. What are they? If you feel the client is not comfortable, now it has come to a stage where it's enough for the day, yes, we can postpone the session to another day. Or else, we can always have the possibility of referring the client to another counselor. And sometimes there will be instances where we have to terminate the process. What are the skills used in action plan? They include, as we discussed before, asking open-ended questions, summarizing, interpretation of client's information, paraphrasing can be done, empathy, showing empathy, genuineness, trust and respect. Yes. Now coming to managing the problems. How can we help to manage the problem? How can the service provider help to manage the problem? Yes. The service provider must perceive the client as a whole person who is normal and easy to deal with. Because if we develop any grudges, any prejudgments, then we can't help the client. So we have to have an open mind, not to go into judgmental states, but to deal with the client as a normal and easy to deal with person. We cannot label the client as a psychiatric diagnosis. We have to show respect. We have to be kind and understanding. Always avoid being judgmental. We should not show any superiority. No, I'm superior to you. No. Both of us, the client and myself, we are at the same level, so that they are at ease and they will open up. If I show that I'm superior to the client, they will not like it. That's how the adolescents are. That's how the young people are. Place of meeting. Yes, this is very important. We have to choose a place where it's safe for both the client as well as for the service provider, especially for the client, and a private place where what all the client tells, no one from outside should be able to hear. So this should be only between the client and the service provider, so that the client will have the feeling that I have my privacy here, I can maintain my confidentiality here. And we have to always tell them, yes, see, there's only you and me here, you can open up. I guarantee that I will keep your privacy, maintain the privacy and the confidentiality. And the environment, a friendly atmosphere is very helpful. Yes. Now coming to goals in counseling. Yes. Evaluation of a successful counseling. The service provider perspective. Young persons can determine whether their work with the counselor is successful if they have gained insights into their thoughts and behavior and something new about themselves, have been successful in making a change and learning new behaviors. They have better and increased coping up skills. They have moved towards an effective problem management. If they feel that they are in a better position to manage the problem. Yes, if they can realize or if they feel that they have fever symptoms now. When we consider positive client characteristics, they are the desire, the belief in oneself, that one of the most significant building bricks to achieve success in any venture, without which achieving the goals is almost impossible. Courage is the ability to push through life in spite of adverse effects. Then the client should realize that I have to have patience and the dedication of the client. Coming to advice to parents. What are the positive tips for parents to have a better communication with their adolescents at home? Yes, the parents have to realize they have to listen more than they speak. Spend twice as much time listening than they talk. Long silence while listening actively will give them the opportunity to open up. Yes, now being parents, they have to realize that they should be their adolescents' best companion. This is the biggest issue we have in the society. The most of the issues that the adolescents, the young people have is because they don't have someone to talk to. They don't have someone to listen to them. So, as parents, they have to listen more than they speak. Then, make time to spend together. Yes, as they are busy, we know the kids are the adolescents, young people, they are busy with their school during the day or maybe in the uni, yes, during the daytime. So once they are back at home in the evening, we have to find time to spend with them. Maybe during the dinner time would be the best. Develop a conversation during the dinner time. So the mother says what happened during the day, the father says his experiences for the day. Of course, the adolescent at home, maybe your daughter or your son, will open up. So if you have this routine at home, you don't have to probe into their daily things. You don't have to ask them what happened today. Tell me what happened today. How was your day? They will definitely discuss these things at the dinner time, at the dinner table. And then they always love to spend time with us, play. We can sit and read with them. We can do a puzzle with them. Or listen to some music. Sing together. Yes, all these things will make them close to us, and we can always be their best companion. And remember, we have to give them privacy. Provide them their own space wherever possible. If they can have a separate room, yes, well and good. We have to give them privacy and show them respect. Yes. What else can we do? We can keep up with their interests. Take an active interest in their life by joining them with their extracurricular activities. Yes, maybe on a weekend, find some time to play with them. Maybe tennis, badminton, whatever it is. That will definitely cheer them up. Be loving parents. And we have to remember our love, they have to be loved unconditionally, not with conditions. When I say unconditionally, the parents can't tell, see son, if you become the first in class, yes, if you become the first in class, I love you so much. No, it should be unconditional love. Then we have to give them, they should realize that we trust them. Celebrate their achievements. Forgive them for their mistakes they've made. Listen to them when they have a problem and show that we have an interest, so that we sit with them and talk together and help them to solve the issue. Support them in any of their problems. We have to be, as parents, we have to be very patient and understanding. Yes. Fun time. Make time for leisure and laughter. Definitely good feelings help to build a good rapport, a good parent-adolescent bonding. What are the signs of negative communication? If the conversation changes into nagging, yelling, or fighting, usually as adults, we are used to demand or instruct. But we have to remember, the adolescents, they don't like instructions. They don't like to obey instructions. No, they love suggestions. So whenever possible, we have to ask them, when there's an issue, do you think if we work it out this way, will it be better? I'm just suggesting. Get their opinion. Yes. Then, if we feel angry, upset, rejected, if they blame them, or we don't involve them, or if they are unloved, then the issue under dispute will never improve. How can we turn negatives into positives? We have to be selective of the issues argued. Offer constructive criticism. Yes. Acknowledge and celebrate their achievements. Above two, make them realize when they are wrong and right. Yes, we can apologize, when the parent is wrong. Say, I'm sorry for what happened. Communication with young persons. Points to remember by parents. Yes. First one is, do not make it a lecture. Have a conversation, as I said before. Do not accuse them or do not attack them. The young persons, they do not like us accusing them or attacking them. They always prefer the friendly approach. Show them respect. And yes, show respect to their opinion. And when we are in a conversation as parents, we should not make it lengthy. Always try to keep it short and simple. Yes. One important thing is, you feel your adolescent at home, your son or your daughter is coming to talk to you. She or he wants some time from you, but you are very busy with your office work or cooking or whatever the work you are involved with. But please do not hesitate or postpone the conversation, because that is a crucial point in life where they can change. So always try to give them time. If you feel they are around you to talk, they want to talk to you, yes, show them that you are ready to talk to them, have a lovely discussion. Now we talked about what communication skills the parents should have. And now let's see what the young people should have. Yes. They know that their parents are the most loving people in this world. So they have to try to understand the parents' point of view as well. Then they have to be ready to address their concerns honestly and directly. Not to try to be defensive or justify your actions, but instead listen to the parents as well, because they always will listen to you then. Not to criticize or ridicule your parents with their viewpoints. Make requests, not demands. Yes. In communication with young people, the most important thing to remember is we have to ensure privacy and confidentiality at all stages. Yes, we have the references here. And this we have done in parallel to the Training of Trainers program, which is being done from the Family Health Bureau. Yes. We have a National Strategic Plan on Adolescent and Youth Health up to 2025. And let's have and develop a better communication with the young people. We being the parents, service providers, or the society in large, let's have better communication by understanding the young people so that they can have a better tomorrow.